Welcome to another edition of HorseCenter, everyone. I am Brian Zipsey, and as always, I have the terrific pleasure of being joined by my co-host to the East Coast. That's Matt Schiffman. How are you today, Matt?
Great, Brian. It's pretty amazing how 2017 has slipped away, and January 1st is coming up, a new year, and the racing birthday of the 2-year-olds who will become 3-year-olds on the trail to the Derby.
That's right, Matt. The older we get, the faster these years go by. We're already talking Kentucky Derby. This is going to be a little bit of a special show, folks. A little bit out of the ordinary for HorseCenter. We like to do things that are a little out of the ordinary. That's just the kind of guys we are, Matt. Anyway, we're going to talk about who we think is the horse to beat for the Kentucky Derby 2018. We're going to kind of crown him, an early crowning, an early coronation of him as the 2-year-old champion. And Matt, of course, I'm talking about Bolt D'Oro.
Bolt D'Oro? Good Magic, I think you mean, Brian.
Matt, we had talked about this. This show's about Bolt D'Oro.
I thought we were talking about the best 2-year-old and the most likely Kentucky Derby winner, Good Magic, Brian.
Whoa, see, in my notes, I had talk about 2-year-old champion of 2017 and the horse to beat, early horse to beat on the Kentucky Derby Trail. I just assumed you were with me here, Matt. Bolt D'Oro.
Brian, you should know by now. You should know how I feel about Good Magic and what happened in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. Good Magic, Brian.
Okay. All right, folks. We're going to take a little U-turn here. It looks like we're going to talk about 2 horses as potential 2-year-old champions. You know who I think will be the 2-year-old champion. I guess Matt is on the losing side on this one. And then we'll talk about both horses as they appear to be 2 of the horses to beat on the Kentucky Derby Trail. Matt, how can you possibly say that Good Magic with 1 victory is going to overtake Bolt D'Oro as the 2-year-old champion of 2017? I just don't see it, sir.
Well, Brian, I was there. I watched the race. And I'll tell you what, Brian, speaking of the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, I've watched the replay of that race so many times. And every time I watch the race, I see a convincing victory by Good Magic. Is not the winner of the race supposed to be the best horse?
You know, absolutely. He won the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. I think that's about the only thing I'm going to agree with you on this, Matt. You remember Villanova beat Georgetown in the NCAA championship just a little over a week ago. The Miami Dolphins beat the New England Patriots, for heaven's sakes. The best team doesn't always win the game, nor does the best horse always win the race. I think we all know that. And certainly, as we look at the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, we know who the best horse was, the horse that lost 78 feet, the horse who had an absolutely horrid trip. You know, Matt, I came away from that favored horse in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, I'm talking about Bolt D'Oro, undefeated, 3 for 3. I came away more convinced after the Breeders' Cup Juvenile than before the race.
Well, Brian, I did not come away from that race with that reaction. Yes, Trackus said 78 feet, but, you know, about 30 of those feet came from the start and the gate. And Bolt D'Oro has had a tendency in all of his races to linger out of the starting gate. And that certainly wasn't a good thing in the juvenile, Brian. But, you know, I will give you the fact that the horse was wide and did run a longer distance. But what bothered me about Bolt D'Oro was that coming down the stretch, I didn't see enough of a punch. I didn't see Bolt D'Oro pass Salamini, who was a tired horse in that race, and he should have been able to do at least that. Yes, Good Magic sat a perfect trip, and that's a credit to his rider. Went right by Salamini with no trouble and extended the lead on Bolt D'Oro.
Big performance for sure. And Good Magic is a horse obviously very good. Listen, I don't come to bury Good Magic today. I just come to praise the other horse, Bolt D'Oro. 78 feet, Matt, that's nearly 10 lengths. And, you know, looking at that race, and we said it not only immediately while it was happening, but I don't know how we can look at that replay and not really like the race that Bolt Doro ran. 78 feet, almost 10 lengths. He was hung out to dry on both turns. The fact that he was gaining on Solomini in the stretch, a clear third place, a very good third place finish. As such a young, inexperienced horse, I thought it was a huge performance and one that kind of solidified him as the 2-year-old champion, especially after everything that he had already accomplished. Don't forget, he's a 2-time Grade 1 stakes winner. He's won 3 races this year. On the other hand, you could look at Good Magic as a 2-year-old champion and say he'll join the long list of horses who have been 2-year-old champion off of only 1 career victory. That long list includes, well, Matt, you better tell me all the horses that list includes.
Brian, there's no question that Bolt Doro has one more Grade 1 victory than Good Magic does. But once again, Good Magic won the big one. We're in horse racing. We call the Breeders' Cup the World Championships, and I'm going to get back to something that you said before when you were talking about other sports. The 1986 World Series, when Bill Buckner let that ball go through his legs. If that didn't happen, the Red Sox win the World Series, and they're the world champions. But that didn't happen, and nobody talks about the Mets having an asterisk next to their name. In racing, we have to make a decision. Is the Breeders' Cup, is it the World Championships or not? Brian, in the history of the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, only 8 times in 34 tries, only 8 times has the juvenile winner not been the Eclipse Award winner.
Yeah, and I think that 8 years is a testament to the fact that the Breeders' Cup is not the be-all, end-all. But I will tell you a little bit about those 8 times, Matt. In all 8 of those cases, the winner, of course, was not a maiden going in. So to answer my previous question to you, no, it's never happened. There's never been a juvenile male Eclipse Award winner with only 1 victory. Good Magic would be setting a new precedent here, and frankly, it's a precedent I do not care for. No, I see the Breeders' Cup as the biggest end-of-the-year races of the year for sure. Good Magic gets high points for winning the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, but I think we have 2 factors here. First off, it's his only win, 1 win out of 3 races. He would be the first ever to win the Eclipse Award. I don't think the Breeders' Cup is enough to trump it. Now, if he had won the Breeders' Cup Juvenile impressively as he did, and the clear leader of the division had run a poor race in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile without obviously a huge issue in the race, then I think we might be talking about maybe Good Magic is worthy of becoming the first horse ever to win the 2-year-old champion without another win. But no, the Breeders' Cup is not everything, and it shouldn't be, Matt. We run from January to December in horse racing, and I don't think you can dismiss everything that happens the rest of the year. We're talking about 2-year-olds, so it's only the second half of the year. But a maiden special win at Del Mar, Del Mar Futurity, where he rallied big down the lane to win the Grade 1 Del Mar Futurity. And then the front runner. We were talking about Solomini before, and obviously Solomini is one of the better 2-year-olds in the country. We saw that again recently. He absolutely demolished, ran away from, won by a pole in the Grade 1 front runner, and that was at Santa Anita, a different track. So such a strong resume going into the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, and as we discussed, almost 10 lengths of lost ground to Good Magic. So obviously he didn't run a poor race in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile at all. So 4 big races, 3 of them wins. Bolt Doro for me.
Yeah, Brian, and there's no question here that in this particular year, we have 2 very talented horses in Bolt Doro and Good Magic, and they stand way above the rest of the crop, the 2-year-old crop, heading into their 3-year-old season on the Kentucky Derby. These are 2 very good horses. They hold the 2 highest Beyer speed figures for 2-year-olds this year, with Bolt Doro's 103 in the front runner and Good Magic's 100 in the Breeders' Cup. There's no question that these are the 2 best horses, and I we've been saying, I like Good Magic much better going on. Honestly, do I really think that Good Magic is going to win the Eclipse Award? I don't think so. It's going to be interesting to see how close it will be. I think he's going to get a good chunk of votes at the end of the year. But like you said, Brian, those 8 juvenile winners who didn't win the Eclipse Award winner that I mentioned, most of them were like Good Magic. They only had one Grade 1 win in the juvenile. A couple of them were Euros, the same thing. So you probably got an edge on me, but that doesn't mean going ahead that I still don't believe that Good Magic is the horse I want heading to the Derby.
Yeah, fair enough, Matt. By the way, one more point on the Breeders' Cup. If we're talking about just one race, maybe we should talk about Mendelssohn, who came over and ran such a big race in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf and beat obviously a very good field in that race. So, yeah, I'm of the feeling that to be the Eclipse Award winner, in most cases, you need more than one race, especially if that's your only win of the year, and especially if there's such a strong candidate who was not winning the Breeders' Cup, in this case, Bolt D'Oro, obviously. But you make a good point. We like both of these horses quite a bit, and it's nice that the top 2-year-olds, I agree with you, the 2 top 2-year-olds clearly in the country, Bolt D'Oro and Good Magic, moving forward have a lot to like moving forward, and that's a good thing. Their breeding really suggests classic distances of both sides. Bolt D'Oro is a WinStar bred horse out of Medaglia d'Oro. His AP Indy Mare Globetrot has only produced 2 horses. The first one was a multiple stakes winner, and then the second one is Bolt D'Oro. On the other hand, Good Magic out of Curlin, one of the best classic horses we've seen in the 21st century, and obviously a top young sire. Neither have produced a Kentucky Derby winner yet, but I think both have a great shot to do so. Of course, Medaglia d'Oro has had just 2 fantastic fillies already that he's produced. Glinda the Good is the Dame of Good Magic, a stakes winner in her own right, graded stakes placed, and Good Magic is actually her first foal. So 2 high-priced yearlings here and 2 horses with classic breeding. However, I will argue one point with you. I don't know that these 2 are way ahead of everybody else as we move into 2018. And what I mean by that is, yeah, clearly they're the top 2-year-olds, but there's going to be a lot of contenders, a lot of new faces, a lot of faces that are already emerging here in the latter months of 2017. So Kentucky Derby, these might be the top 2, Matt, but I'm going to leave you with one more thing before this long speech here. The latest Vegas odds from Wynn, which just came out this week, have Bolt D'Oro as the favorite for the Kentucky Derby, but not Good Magic, the second choice. It's actually McKinsey, the lightly raced horse from Baffert, who's the second choice. So Bolt D'Oro 7-1, McKinsey 11-1, Good Magic 14-1. What do you think about that?
I think I would love to have that 14-1, Brian. I certainly don't agree with the Vegas line maker there. I mean, is McKenzie going to get a lot of support? He's Baffert's maybe leading candidate right now. I didn't like his most recent race at all, but we'll see. We'll see moving along. And I just want to add something else that you mentioned there, and you wrote about the other day, is that there are so many new 2-year-olds appearing on the trail by Tappet also. The dominant sire in the country now, but another one along with Medaglia d'Oro and Curlin, who hasn't won a Derby yet. So between these 3, is one of these sires going to get their first Derby? That's going to be interesting to look at because the Tappets haven't fared that well on the first Saturday in May so far.
Good point, Matt. And I think more years than most, you see a lot of the best 2-year-olds are horses that we really question whether, hey, are they going to like 9 furlongs, let alone 10 furlongs or more? So it's nice to see that so many of the big 2-year-olds this year really do have the kind of breeding. Maybe that's a good sign for American breeding, where we're starting to take the classic distances a little bit more seriously rather than breeding for such speed. So I like that trend. Matt, one trend I don't particularly like, although it's worked a little bit, is the number of races. Let's get back to the two stars of our show here, Bolt D'Oro and Good Magic. Bolt D'Oro is planning to run 3 races, or I should say the connections of Bolt D'Oro are planning to run him 3 times, all out in California. I like that. I think it gives him more foundation going into the Triple Crown. They're going to be spread out, but he'll start with a sprint, and then he'll have the San Felipe and the Santa Anita Derby on his trail. Good news, Mick Ruiz really says he's a horse that is not hard on himself at all training, and I think that's a big consideration to take in for any horse you're hoping to get into and through the Triple Crown Series. Good Magic, on the other hand, is only planned for 2 starts in 2018. That's kind of Chad Brown's modus operandi, and that worries me just a little bit.
Yeah, I agree with that, Brian, and not just Chad Brown's modus operandi. It's also the path that a lot of the big name trainers have taken now. Just 2 preps, and you know, we see it happening with some horses that show promise, like Montauk that we've heard so much about with Todd Pletcher, who has just a maiden win now. We don't know where he's going to start, but I assume it's only going to be 2 races. And that means a talented horse is going to head into the Derby with only 3 career starts. That's a tough ask, regardless of how talented a horse is.
Yeah, another good point, Matt. I think in our conversation of Bolt D'Oro and Good Magic, though, I do prefer, and I guess you're agreeing with me there, that 3 planned preps, we never know what will happen here, of course, but 3 planned preps, at least in our thinking, is helpful getting ready for the Kentucky Derby. Bolt D'Oro is going to do that. I'll also mention, Matt, California horses going to Kentucky Derby have fared very well in recent years. Another point in the favor of Bolt D'Oro moving forward. So we've had 4 California horses, California-trained, California-based horses win the Kentucky Derby in the last 6 years, and 3 in a row. And I just think it's a trend worth noting, and the fact that Bolt D'Oro will be racing out in generally sunny Southern California during the spring is probably a good thing, and maybe an advantage for him again over Good Magic.
Yeah, we'll see how that trend plays out this year, because of course last year the non-West Coast horses did sweep all 3 of the Triple Crown races. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. One thing that is a little bit of a concern with Bolt D'Oro is that Mick Ruiz is a relatively inexperienced trainer who is going to be facing all the hubbub and pressure of the likely favorite heading into 2018 to the Kentucky Derby, and handling all of that is not an easy thing. He does have other horses in his barn. He only has 2 stakes wins to his career, and those are the wins of Bolt D'Oro. So this is not an easy thing. I'd like it a lot more if Bolt D'Oro maybe was in the barn of one of the experienced trainers.
Yeah, maybe if we're talking about who's going to win the Kentucky Derby, but I kind of like the story of Ruiz racing and Mick Ruiz kind of being a relative unknown commodity when we get to Louisville with the big horse. So I'm not going to worry about this. One thing I will mention, we talked about the front runner for Bolt D'Oro. I did think Good Magic ran a very good Champagne in which he rallied pretty nicely, got himself in good position. He was rallied by a horse who I'm not sure how good is. It did decent enough 2-year-old for sure, Forensic Fire, but he got rallied by late, but that was only his 2nd start. Part of my point is that Champagne certainly was a very good effort in his 2nd career start, moved him forward, obviously, for that good performance, very good performance in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. I like both of these horses' running styles. They've both proven that they can lay close to the pace and pounce, and if they need to, be a little bit farther off the pace and still have a strong kick. So on that front, too, I think we're dealing with the best 2-year-olds in the country. Lots of things to like looking forward as we head towards Kentucky.
Yeah, don't forget in that Champagne also that Good Magic did beat Enticed in there, and Enticed has come back and won a big race on the Derby Trail in Kentucky already. So that Champagne was pretty good field, just short of the win for Good Magic that would have gotten him the Eclipse Award.
Yeah, that second grade one certainly would have made his credentials, that second victory. Remember, he ran second in his maiden debut at Saratoga as well. Would have probably made this a different discussion and a little bit more in Matt's favor than my favor. But I'm going to stick with Bolt Doro moving forward. He's my top pick for the Derby right now, but I certainly think he'll be the 2-year-old champion. You out there on the East Coast, Chad Brown's Good Magic. He's your horse.
Yeah, and I'm being honest. It was great to debate with you, Brian, and in doing so, point out to the fans the merits of both of these fine 2-year-olds. It's going to be a long shot for Good Magic to win the Eclipse Award, but going down the road, I like Good Magic on the Derby Trail.
Excellent. And Matt, I've heard a lot of people that are talking like you, Good Magic as 2-year-old champion. So I don't know that it'll be a done deal in Bolt Doro's fashion, but I certainly think he should get it. And there's just nothing I don't like about Bolt Doro right now. All of his races, where he is, what kind of horse he is. So I'm on the Bolt Doro train. Folks, we sure hope you appreciated this special edition of HorseCenter here on Tuesday morning, Louisville and New Jersey, respectively. We sure appreciate you watching every week. Each week, we're brought to you by the best contest site out there, Derby Wars. Please do subscribe to our YouTube channel, Horse Racing Nation. Also, we have a special this week in that Christmas is next Monday, so we're going to do 2 shows this week. So we'll have a show later in the week, and we'll be looking at especially Santa Anita opening day, grade 1 races out there, the Malibu, the La Brea, some very good horses running. So that's exciting, Matt. How about a parting shot from you, sir?
And again, I want to thank all of our fans for watching the show and wish everybody happy holidays. And we'll see you on Friday for the Santa Anita card. And as always, thank you, Brett Workman, for producing our show.
Thank you to Brett. Happy holidays, everyone.